Good morning, church. Thank you for the opportunity of being part of your life. Yesterday, I began looking at what we call life verses. These verses have both within them the power to change us from death to life. They contain both promise and truth. And one of the verses that I used was from Romans in chapter 8 and verse 29, which read like this: "For from the very beginning, God decided that those who came to him, and all along he knew who would, should become like his son, so that his son would be the first with many brothers and sisters." Another passage of scripture that I used was from 1 Corinthians in chapter 13, which said, "Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud." And I said that what God really wanted for my life and your life is that instead of the word love, we should put our own names in there, so that it would read something like this: Tony is patient, Tony is kind, he is not envious, he does not boast, he is not proud, he is not self-seeking, he's not easily angered, he doesn't keep a record of wrongs. And I realized that I was failing miserably as a Christian and as a pastor. But instead of running towards God, I ran away from him. I ran away from him in the way of condemnation. I would condemn myself and saying what a terrible person I am. And then I would make all sorts of promises and say, well, I'll do this and I'll do that and I'll change here and I'll change there. Lord, please forgive me. But it didn't really. One eventful day, for instance, Stella burst into my office and she proceeded to shout at me for something I had or hadn't done. I can't remember what it was. But I reacted like a loving pastor that I'm supposed to be. I shouted back at her. And it wasn't a very good ending to a conversation. But in my anger, I walked into the kitchen and I was really furious. But I knocked the magnet off the fridge. And on that magnet, love is patient, love is kind. Truth is so hard to handle. Truth demands that we change. Truth will never leave you the way it found you. It's very easy and sometimes very comfortable to view truth from a disengaged viewpoint. But when I embrace the truth of who God is, it also means that I'm embracing the demands that this belief entails. These demands that truth puts upon us, are chiefly encountered when applied to our motives, our attitudes, and our values, and eventually our behavior. Truth never allows you to remain the same. So instead of facing the truth, I retreated into my male nothing box. There I could stew in my own little sense of indignation and self-pity. The truth that I was called to model the Christian life in the church and in view of all the people I was caring for, well, that was suppressed. That was pushed down in my anger. And in the process, I moved further and further away from God. And then the most amazing thing happened. God came looking for me. Just like he did when Elijah ran away after an altercation with a woman called Jezebel. In a quiet voice, God asked him two very important questions. What are you doing here, Elijah? Put my own name there. What are you doing here, Tony? We try to get away from the truth. We hide from it. We ignore it, just like Elijah. I had a very skewed understanding of the truth at the time concerning the altercation between myself and Stella. But then he asked me a second question, a very cutting question, a more heartfelt question. Why are you here, Elijah? Put your own name there. Why are you here, Tony? And this really grabbed my attention. What am I here for? The reason I am here is to give expression to the ongoing life of Jesus in a world today that is so crying out for the love of God. I'm here to tangibly demonstrate the love of God in a world devoid of love. as I say, God came looking for me. He found me again, and he challenged me to love Stella. No, 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 no. She deserves to be sent to the corner until she learns to behave with more decorum herself. And as I walked back into the kitchen, I picked the magnet up off the floor, replaced it on the fridge door, and then repented. Okay then, I love her, even if it kills me, I decided. So the next time I saw Stella, I went straight up to her and I hugged her. Tight. Very tight. And broke her rib. But that was the start of a renewed relationship. And that is precisely what God did to me. He hugged me close to himself. And in the process, he broke the cage of my self-protection and self-preservation. It is truly a liberating experience, coming close to him, or allowing him to become close to me, to enable him to show me what is the depth of his love for me. It broke my resolve to be self-sufficient. God is love. That's what the scriptures teach. And the truth of this is that God does not have love. He is love. He does not have love on good days, and then on bad days he is devoid of love. He is love through and through. If you were able to cut through God to the very core of his being, he is love. He is motivated by love. He behaves with love. He is love through and through. The Greek word is agape. It's only found in the scriptures. It's nowhere used in ordinary Greek outside of the scriptures. The word agape is reserved for God. And God has come to live in my life. And we'll continue this tomorrow.